Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrite bodhicitta motivation, that we should participate in this discourse on mind training like the rays of the sun. I'm going to read a couple of pages from this Lojong text, mind training text called Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun, from page 75, to give you the blessing of Lung, or lineage oral transmission, followed by explanation. Tonglen Shartse na rangye long shir na go ne ro ye long jo de je ge za na ge ta chao je si je de da je so we de ta du do no se lo no de ngo be ze kha so je se de je kun zhong de je de da je rang ge ning na de lang Tata Taji Dunga Mada Cha Samo Tatara Hono Long Sun Jibo Sim Min Jing Tenshi Da De Beo To Xiao Jiro Jibo Jed Nipa Jedo Chun Sun Jie Gao Jie Nin Yu Tu Sung Ge Zao Sung Yu Sung Tu Sung Ge Zao Sung Geshe Phuntsok Sharwa Shebi Shene, Gaye, Dangan, the Homer Shevala, Jugda Rimbu, Chamshin, Jimmy Jong, Jig Jong, Don John Ball, Tama, the Jonah, or Jig Mu. Quốc sư trổ mô ta ra chấm nhô kê chấm nhô khơ chê chấm nhô cân nà shô mân nà trà sê wā chê kê sā wā tam bā tsā wā bī lū bē nā lē nā lūk chū nē phūng phūng bē thōng bā tā nē bā tō ngā tā chē chē lē chō wā chō yīn chē dē rōng mē rōng Tobo me do chow me then the chicks from jail, Lumba to the Jalomba gone. So Marcia so you did me the Tobo some jet Dashe Gyeltsen Yela the Tonglen you go the showing John Yelazum. Range so the Manze to start traditions of the Deresha Karsa. I told you the Karsa. Tadu the subject of the Zojan Toby said any Lulu Gagas incident of Zojan the town, any Yazaka tell you more is Laza Telayatine. Tadu Basumdo do the Geshe in Irati with the Ranji Kaza. You do it were Ranjeti with Tibasim Sonyor, Kangala, which I told more was in or T. Leresha.
Geshe read from the bottom of page 75 to the end of page 77 to give us the blessing of Lung or lineage oral transmission. And what you find in what Geshe just read for us is dealing with this notion that there are three, how should I say, final yanas or vehicles or spiritual destinations. That's one perspective. When we think in terms of three spiritual yanas or vehicles, destinations, we are talking about the Sharavaka yan or the hearer's vehicle, and Pratika Buddha yan or the solitary realizer's vehicle, and then Mahayan or the great vehicle. So each of them as if is regarded as a final vehicle or how should I say, a spiritual destiny. Of course, there's another perspective which says that there's only one final or ultimate yana or vehicle. No.
What Tadu Unity will go to the same level Tadu Kaje do devata to call a level mother Shumo. That says the way does Yendu does told me, I'll teach you a lot of sugar. So what did they share in the Tadu was so Tibet Senator Karsa, Saja Toyagi, any decaying more of a Timeleza, and Chono Getaka, similar to those on to go, you know. It's that those on to be given your Maravash. Take home of your Maravash, Lana. And did that this song you long soon shall be any because the just of the color cousin should be any couple of the song Shiramoto, any Taunoro, the Yedoma race. How do the city as a song Jane race, come to song race?
The qualm or issue that has been raised here is this. Throughout this, what we have seen or talked about is this, that as we dedicate our body resources, roots of virtue, and everything we have basically for the benefit of all sentient beings, and then we dedicate whatever the merit that arises from that for all of us or for them to attain Buddhahood or complete enlightenment. Yeah? So we are dedicating our merit for everyone to become a Buddha enlightened being. Now the qualm that has been raised is there is no guarantee that everybody is going to be become a Buddha or wants to be Buddha. So how can you make that kind of altruistic dedication? So as if a critic has kind of raised that point of contention, if you will. And as Geshe explained, that yes, Buddha has, in certain texts talks about as if there are three final yanas or vehicles, just as I just talked about, a hearer's vehicle, a solitary realizer's vehicle, and Maha great vehicle. But this is to be taken as what we call a provisional discourse or interpretive discourse or teaching, Tonglen in Tibetan. Okay? Because ultimately Buddha wants everybody to become an enlightened being or Buddha, because everybody has this infinite potential we call Buddha nature to be able to become a Buddha. Everybody is equal in terms of that. So Buddha's final words on this matter, if you will, or the definitive discourse on this is that eventually everybody will attain complete enlightenment or Buddhahood. So there, in that sense, there's only one final vehicle, or the ultimate vehicle, or yana, which is great vehicle, or the Buddhahood. Because when we look in the context of Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, of course, lower Buddhist schools of thought might say that there are spiritual aspirants who are nothing but seeking nirvana from samsara, and as if that is their final destination. For example, South Tantrika school of thought would subscribe to that. Not like everybody is going to seek enlightenment. But then in the case of higher schools of thought, such as mind-only school or Chitta-Martin school, they say that yes, there are in the beginning those spiritual aspirants who are striving for their personal nirvana or freedom from samsara. But once they attain it, then they will, how should I say, follow the path leading to complete enlightenment or Buddhahood. So that is the final spiritual destination or final vehicle. So we have all these different perspectives in the Buddhist schools of thought. And anyway, when Buddha said that there are three final vehicles, that is to be taken as a provisional discourse or interpretable discourse. And his final words on the matter is that everybody has an infinite potential to be Buddha, and so therefore there's only one final vehicle, which is complete enlightenment.
Chita Tadu Tiwachito long be mongo, Tadu Sumdo long, long the Kazakal Mambo Yarwa. That long day, that Jabitajo long the Mojitam, Tadu Tiwachito long Mambo Yarwa, Mambo Yar, yes. That Kombachun is showing it says that Dakshe Yamba the Jat to go there, Konsona. And the Tonglen long jar said him that the Kombachun is showing it says. Tonglen yebo dode de koma shitune, tin long la chombar sha she som des. Tonglen yin shangwe, ze rang long shir na go ni de ze lu lu de zu geza nange ta ja ji senjel tang ne. Teda ta ji saba me be dewa ta tu da deva che san shin. Long na de ngo be ze Kausungji simse taji je se judu gu dan jibu dungen taji rangi nyingna du langde se dada taji dungen moliba da chewa samos. Oda di tono gumdu dire khaje da khasa. Tad lozo todo kara se tini longa jangwa sha se chomba sha se di jwa. Tono ni chang de pa chang so na tada mwa de chang so na. And the wrong now, Karsa wrong is long shir nagon do it. ene karsa raw lose geza ga sibje tamjil pe rawang khanje chido ngo chu sam ki sam tang gres se ra tang ye ta ta ji sam be da ta du de sam ye se ta long chu ngu de zan no go be sibje khamsu tamji sibje taji ene yukun ju de jibu de khaje ta mi do de khare de ga ene so so lang ni sin ji du tu la ene la zong se da ga ga be yung ye da che so wo de ye sam lo dong gre se xin san.
We are on top of page 76, where there is a citation from the expression of the names of Manjushri, or Manjushri Namasamgiti, chanting the names of Manjushri. Of course, as Geshe said, there are many authentic sutras that, how should I say, demonstrate that there is only one final vehicle or yana, which is a great vehicle or Buddhahood. And we only have a quote from chanting the names of Manjushri Namasamgiti, just to substantiate that point. And I quote, "The result of one vehicle is present in the three vehicles' determination to be free," unquote. And so here again we have a text that clearly contains that there is one final vehicle. All other vehicles finally kind of lead you to that one final vehicle. So next, as Geshe explained, that when we familiarize ourselves with this lojong or the mind training of equalizing and exchanging self for others, and so when we get habituated in this, now we can integrate this practice, Tonglen practice, with our natural breathing cycles, if you will. And in the 7-point mind training text, we just have one statement that indicates that, I quote, "These two should be made to ride on the breath." So these two, meaning, giving and taking, the Tonglen practice should be mounted on our natural system of breathing in and breathing out. Now, as Geshe explained, and you find the text in the middle of page 76, that when we exhale the breath through our nostril, right, we are breathing out, we can imagine and visualize that we are giving our body resources, roots of virtue or positive energy, everything goodness we have, transform into all the things that sentient beings are seeking, and we give them to sentient beings as they receive our gifts, right? Not only that they receive the results of positive energies, but they also gain the positive energies as well, which are the causes of peace and happiness. And so then we feel that now we have fulfilled the wishes of sentient beings, and they enjoy complete satisfaction and uncontaminated blissful experience, and we're very happy that we fulfilled our promise and what we really wanted to do for sentient beings. Now when we inhale the breath or breathe in through our nostril, we imagine or visualize that we are taking from sentient beings unwanted suffering as well as causes negativities to ourselves, and we absorb all of this suffering and its causes into our heart and imagine strongly that our own self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping are completely shattered and dismantled and destroyed. Okay? And as a result, that sentient beings are now completely free of both suffering and its causes. So we give with love, maitri, as we exhale the breath, and out of compassion we inhale the breath and we take suffering and its causes to ourselves and feel that sentient beings are completely freed of suffering, its causes, and our own self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping are completely smashed. or destroyed. And so as you can see that we can kind of integrate this Tonglen practice, the practice of giving and taking, along with our breathing system, because we have to breathe in and breathe out, right? Our breathing cycles, so we can mount as if that practice on this vehicle of breath. Nice. So in the middle of page 76, you find the passage that Geshe has just explained about the practice of giving and taking, or in Tibetan called Tonglen. As you can see, the way it is presented here is first we give. As we exhale the breath, we give our body resources, roots of virtue to sentient beings, and they find happiness in its causes, and they experience uncontaminated bliss. Then we take, as we breathe in, inhale, we take the suffering its causes to ourselves, destroy our ego, our self-chasing attitude, and self-grasping, and sentient beings completely freed. This is how it is presented here in the text. But in the words of our lineage gurus or the masters, what they tell us usually is we can reverse this order of taking and giving, which is giving and taking, that first we can think of taking suffering and its causes from sentient beings to ourselves. Once they are freed of all their suffering, its causes, now we can give them all the goodness so that they can enjoy it. And that seems to make sense with the example that Geshe has given, that if somebody is kind of being caught fire, the first thing that seems to make is we should extinguish the fire, right? And then we can feed the person. But if we let the person burn and then we provide food, clothing, shelter, anything, anyway, he's not going to enjoy them because he has this terrible suffering to deal with. So in that sense, first we can imagine or visualize taking other suffering and its causes to ourselves out of compassion. Then out of love, we can give them the happiness and its virtues so that they can enjoy our gift. Yes. Again, in the words of our lineage gurus or masters, that in terms of acquainting ourselves with this practice of Tonglen, giving and taking, or taking and giving, we should start it with oneself first. In the Tibetan it says lembe korim rangnitsam. In terms of this kind of practice, you should begin it with yourself. But we don't see that line in the text at the moment. Maybe it might appear a little later on. We don't know. And what that means is, before we can really start to think of taking other suffering and its cost to ourselves, which seems to be kind of very difficult, for most people, because that seems irrelevant to us. Looks like none of our business. Geshe didn't say that, my footnote. So, but it makes more sense to think of our own business, isn't it? That I can start off thinking, whatever suffering that I might experience, in the later day, I can imagine taking those suffering to myself so that I'm completely freed, and then I don't have to suffer little later, Yeah, maybe I can think of taking my suffering of tomorrow today, so that tomorrow I'm free of suffering and I don't have to worry about it. And so whatever suffering that's going to come at a later stage in life, as we become aged or old, right, we can take those suffering and then imagine that as we age and in our golden years, we don't have to have any suffering anymore. And then we start to think of our next life suffering. We take it upon ourselves so that in next life we don't have to have any more headaches. So like that, as we train our mind to be able to take our own future sufferings upon ourselves right now and feel very comfortable doing that. But usually I think most of the people should be okay with that, because you are dealing with your own problem, right? So I don't think that would be a strange thought anyway. So once we are used to that, now we can kind of shift our focus on others and then think of taking other suffering upon ourselves, because at the end that nobody wants suffering, as we know.
我这些写到所说举几位他上所说的那年在计划什么这说的如果可这个所说两个我说这个是现在大概他的也浪那了没得开有么所说可所说两的是吧他年也浪那的没得开没在我这也不尝试过这些这尝试是那现在现在老乡的现在上我等两个人是
No. So as Geshe just said, that in terms of doing this Tonglen practice, the practice of giving and taking, or taking and giving, whichever way we phrase it, start with oneself. Just like we talked about, that we can think of taking our future suffering upon ourselves, right? Tomorrow's suffering upon ourselves today. Because we are going to be the same person tomorrow, isn't it? This is us. We are not talking about some other person. And maybe next year suffering upon ourselves this year, because next year we are going to be the same person. And in the next life, of course, we die, but we will be reborn, and it's the same person with a new form, and we take that suffering upon ourselves. So when we get used to that, because that's not a strange notion, because you are really still dealing with your own suffering, and which you should, and by taking as if the suffering in advance, we free ourselves from the worries and anxiety and fears in the future, so that we don't have to suffer it anymore. But once we really feel comfortable with this kind of a thinking and mindset, mind training, then later we can focus our shift on to others and then think of taking others' suffering and its causes to ourselves.
In the past, Shell Toya, Zulea Karina, Julum, which go to Attack, the Gaze, Poviman, she was. She's a part of the long gin dog, the long gin, because some of those shower. Or she took some tongue in and long till bit to tell Lucy, you what chicks that they did it. Sanga gets it. No, losing Geshe.
We're in the middle of page 76, where it is stated, I quote, "Practicing in this way, the mind and breath will flow in the same direction, so you will overcome distraction and strengthen mindfulness," unquote. So as Geshe explained there, so when we train our mind, in Tonglen practice, the practice of giving and taking, or taking and giving, along with our breathing system, breathing in and breathing out, and get used to this kind of practice, then our mindfulness will get enhanced, because wherever the breath goes, the mind follows it. And as Geshe explained, that if we have a lot of this kind of how should I say, thoughts arising in our mind, then our mind is very busy and distracted, and we need to calm down our mind, isn't it? So in the context of shamatha practice, shine practice, the practice of calm abiding or mental questions or mental tranquility or any other words we use, in the beginning we said we should take a couple of minutes to focus our breath on breathing in and breathing out. And by simply following the cycle of breathing in and breathing out, our mind pulls it away from all these distracting thoughts, and it calms down, it stills down, And that's very important to develop stability of the mind, or shamatha of the mind. So here also, we are using the breathing system, and in the Tibetan we called lungsim jugwachiba. Mind and the wind energy, they have the same direction. Of course, this is not something talked about in the sutra discourses, but this is very much based on the esoteric tantric system of education and training of the mind. And of course, when we really breathe in and out, because we do have to breathe in and out, we use that breathing system to be able to practice giving and taking, and that makes sense, isn't it? Otherwise, it looks like other suffering drops on us somewhere, because that doesn't work. We have to have a medium, right, that connects us and that works. It's a process, nothing drops from the sky or comes out of the ground. There is a process involved. So this breathing system is a process which we use to exhale out all the resources and give them to sentient beings, and they find uncontaminated bliss and happiness. And then we breathe in all the suffering it causes and free them from suffering, destroy our own ego system and self-cherishing attitude system. So all of these things are integrated with our natural experience of breathing in and breathing out. So that's a very useful and effective technique.
Parmaino Yaton, Kushash, or Tika Yamodo Sheni, any Gangalga. And the Simiti Yape, Numu on to the Samotan, Tataji, Numu Gangabe, Sozo Tata Julia, Dig Pe Koshen, and subject to that time, that Danye Pasu Ganga. Numu T. Division Ganga, Sozo Tata Julia, to those Sozo Yati, Koshen, because they said that is a Benyamu wishes or Tita Samoton was saying, Rawati Karsa, Kuchagi, Koshen, is it? For that was the Scotches, but color is Ningun color is Carson and take it bass in it, Park Koshu, Momos and the Koshu, Carson and Diro, or this was Jury. That's what the Koshu, because they had that doing it and Meashen, and she also son into the Gongus games. Then Dorjee into Gichum times it down. In that times it knows long shot this, who launched Karsa. Then Haman is young Dorjee into Gichum times you said that Doa, Shava, Yeva, Doctor, Children of Shizajoro. Or Ninja 2 times you did not that there was part of no, I give a dead gums, the Pentomars, Mutus, or Ninja would launch at the Gonuli. A musician would the Doya room, Junior room, Junior times it, 2 times it, the same times the Homo show, here's what that was. Said the later you go back to Maris. How do you know to do your mission to come to Gomurista? That you might go with the Zedi Gomusan, Dumar, Gontomaro. But you forgot the condition.
Yes. So we are on page 76 towards the bottom. The big caption reads, "The practice to be followed in the periods after and in between meditation sessions." And then we have 3 lines from the 7-point maintaining fundamental text, and it reads, "Concerning the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues, the instruction to be followed in brief is to take these words to heart in all activities," and unquote. So as Geshe explained, that when we do our session, practice session, we know, what needs to be done at the beginning, which includes correcting our motivation or generating altruistic motivation. And then after that, we follow the actual practice. For example, like the Tonglen practice, which is the actual practice. And then before the session ends, we will conclude it properly, which involves doing proper dedication of the merit. So our practice session has 3 phases of the parts. There's the beginning, middle, and the end. The beginning involves, the preliminary practice and including motivation, cultivation. And then the actual practice, or whatever the practice is all about, we do it. And then the conclusion is that we conclude it properly with aspirational prayers and dedication prayers, right? Then, of course, we cannot be in a practice session 24 hours. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to walk, we have to go, So there are a lot of what we call in-between sessions, and so how should we conduct ourselves? When we are not in a meditative session, we are out of meditative sessions and we are walking, sitting, eating, drinking, whatever, how should we conduct ourselves now as a practitioner? So that's the question. And in response to that, so we have those 3 lines from the 7-point maintaining text, which is when we are in our break times or in between sessions, we engage with different objects, isn't it? And so we can broadly think in terms of 3 objects, which are many things appear to us as very pleasant and attractive, okay? And many things appear to us as unpleasant and maybe ugly and obnoxious and really not pleasant. And then many things, neither appear to us as very attractive or unattractive. They're just, so-so. right? So we have three categories of objects that we engage in. So when we engage, in those objects, we have three different emotional reactions usually. With the attractive and beautiful and handsome and now the other things you can say, we experience attachment. We get so attractive and attached and obsession and all of those things come up. That's that reaction, isn't it? So that's one of the poisons in attachment, obsession there. And with the unpleasant object, the ugly and obnoxious and all of that, then our reaction is anger and hostility and aggression and all of those things. That's another emotional reaction there, another poison. And with the objects that are neither attractive nor unattractive, kind of like we have negligence and we don't care. It's just like we exclude them from our the thinking. And so that's more like a part of what we call mental obscuration or ignorance. So the three objects are attractive, pleasant, super duper beautiful objects. And another one is unpleasant, obnoxious, ugly, and all of that objects, appearance. And the third one is objects neither appear as attractive nor as unattractive. So engaging with them in between sessions, we experience three reactions. We have this attachment and obsession and all of that towards the attractive objects. Then we have hostility, anger, upset, aggression towards the unpleasant objects. And then we have negligence and indifference attitude, I don't care what happens to these things, to the neutral objects, so human beings and sentient beings do experience all this what called three poisons. So now what we're going to do is, I have these poisons inside me, and these are my reactions to the three different types of objects. So, it is as if by my experience of these poisons, poisonous afflicting emotions, may sentient beings be freed from all these poisons. They don't have to have attachment, ignorance, and anger. As if my experience of these poisons is good enough, and it fulfills the need for everybody, and everybody doesn't have to go through the same yagadi experiences. And then we feel that they are freed of all the three poisons. And as a matter of fact, they gain the three virtues, virtues arising out of non-attachment, non-hatred, and non-ignorance. This is how, even during our breaks or in between sessions, whether we are walking, sitting, eating, talking, whatever activities we engage in, so this is how we can be mindful of our emotional reactions, and we can do this kind of visualization. So that's very important. Of course, it's true that we cannot do this 24 hours, but as much as we can, because when we think in terms of this practice, it's not enough to do this practice once or twice or few times, right? For us to be able to advance in our practice and develop this strong habit of our practice, we have to do it as much as we can continuously. So that's why Geshe says it's important for us to cultivate that kind of thinking during our breaks or in between the sessions. On top of page 77, we have a citation from great Indian master Acharya Kamal Shila's stages of meditation or Bhavana Kram or Gomrim, where he really talks about how, whether we are walking, standing, and doing whatever we are doing, we should always cultivate compassionate feeling and thought. It's not like compassion is cultivated once or twice in a meditative session as if that's job done. No, whatever we are doing, talking, eating, sleeping, walking, standing, sitting, just do the compassion, And the same way, we should do the that kind of thinking we just talked about as much as we can throughout the time.
听人一种生活当行的这个么对的可的，但小时没得不的人们想了，我的是，那对他就是甚至他就是，但甚至的最东的些工作的，说呀，那干呀最老些，那没干啥的，盘么都下的这些用的，甚至我相信是甚至他们这生活动物的是，这就是一个，那上路公路确实听着这么些呢，那。 Joala, Paro, Tonglen, Miguatia, Dada, Sing, Jimmy Gordon, John Sero, she did Miguatia, Dada, the Daguma, Timmy shows. Sisi doing Dale Michel, Codita, Tonglen, sick, a lot, Jangi,
Sure. So we're on top of page 77, that as Geshe said, that the kind of practice mind training lojong that we're talking about is not one of those things we can do once or twice as if we can tick off our checklist. It's not a checklist thing. It is something that we should try to do in all situations, activities as much as we can. And because the reason behind this is that our goal is to be Buddha, enlightened beings. So until we achieve that goal, we have to do this practice as much as we can. It is not like doing it once or twice or periodical kind of a practice. It's not to be ticked off on a checklist here. And of course, when we do Tonglen practice, the practice of taking other suffering and its causes to ourselves, destroying our ego system and the self-chasing attitude, and giving them the body, resources, roots of virtue, this kind of practice should be extended equally towards all sentient beings. That is the goal. We may not be able to start off like that, but at least we cultivate altruistic motivation, bodhicitta, and try to do that. We cannot be discriminatory or biased in our practice. Like we love this practice, Tonglen, and then we only do this practice in relation to people we love and we kind of near and close to us. Then people who really, we don't like it, we just kind of exclude them. And then people who are strangers, we think, who the hell are you? Well, Geshe didn't say that, by the way. So we don't do that. So that doesn't work. Our mind training practice, this kind of equalizing and exchanging self for others, and the Tonglen practice must be an all-inclusive practice that everybody, whether you like them or don't like them, friends and foes and strangers all alike, should be treated equally, and we should do this practice in relation to them all.
Tonglen big bashi six to Teso Tongreshi. That the Russian Koba Shago, they say, Shara Shevisheni, my Dama de Koba Shevala, Juda Rimbu, Jamshin, say, they make young check Jamayos. Don't Joe Baba Tamatar, and Jonah check Mayos. Go to Tromotar, John Yoga Chiggins, and Karna show Manachasa Chiggins, Sambatavani, Venice, and Venesa, Lujun, Pumbu Tomatas, never do it time jelly, Troasho, Inji. The room, Mirun, Tobo Mutup, Chow Messajam to say, Chicksumji. Lumbakang is a muse that they were a country. Tell you, Sabatemo goes over.
No, so
that Shara Harrison is this or that. The Kovachewa last, you died in which champion to say. You were that how much ever of share. And some do what the power station, them Jackson, whatever you are. That some tomorrow, Bumbo the Dura. Said, did that some you died in what champion should. Needed the dedication in such a position of phantom was somewhat ever was here.
No.
Carsa, they make young muse what he young Maris. A dojo ballad down at that. Jonah, check a muse. Such the Babda would know he don't change it. What then the Kaya, the Savoy and the Rido, young Savoy who get the Deja.
No.
Because it's South young men do Marcella.
No, sir.
And the cousin Jonah was you muse, go to Tomo. No, and jump Yoga Jigam muse. But this is just a god to us to Tomos, don't shoot Kaza, not the children check. Javan says, because you go to the devil Mingas Yomare.
No.
You are young as Chamoton the guy or
No.
young and Suguton the Yawa.
No.
Or Jessica. Karna shop, man. 差些，他可他就是不是通过他这个见的，他可真的这个就讲这什么的，哎，也是但是呢，冷着用什的这个别是通过的，他们这种店不行，我说是，我这的冷过来。才能学马扎打了一下手去，也上了运动都有下学嘛，我就是比赛是吧？哦，说这个上班大半呢是，别那欧洲的朋友同吧，但是那把东西当起来，传教引介，那这个没弄都不没都上没些年的些，轻松的我们讲也没用事。我觉得他就这样没有，以前都没有写，当不习惯了就小的有的当时就没就写，这当时里面和点点写的没有写，我从那找马上上写这个呀，当不过说老多名字写不没那偏多嘛是，我的没讲生写的是吧？但可是现在嘛是呢，就是到我的嘛些把的别，那么是另一个啥，他们这点不是我。
So we are still on page 77. One thing I left from the previous explanation is this. As you can see, there are lines quoted from Kamal Shila's Stages of Meditation, and those lines really specifically deal with the practice of giving and taking, or Tonglen, which reads like, may their misdeeds, means negativities, ripen on me. May all my virtues ripen upon them. May all sentient beings suffering mature on me, and through my virtues may they all be happy. Whatever agonizes beings may suffer, may they ripen on me alone. Through all the virtues of Bodhisattva, may wandering beings enjoy bliss. So sometimes it's very wonderful to be able to memorize some of these very powerful lines of practice. So because this assists in our practice, right? If we are simply thinking, sometimes maybe our thinking needs a little more help, clarity and things like that. So if you can chant some lines like this, or recite some lines like this, or use some of these effective words and lines of thinking, that can augment our practice of Tonglen, giving and taking. So Geshe suggests that it's good to memorize some stanzas, lines like this, to be able to do our practice more effectively. Then in the next line, one of the great Kadamba Geshes by the name of Geshe Sharawa tells us that when we practice equalizing and exchanging self with others and Tonglen practice, we should do it most sincerely from the bottom of our heart. Now, not as if like a lip service. We really mean our business here, right? We really mean it as we do our practice. So engage in our practice with full sense of determination. Whatever happens, happens. We are just going to kind of delve into it with all our full force of determination. So there's a big kind of a passage attributed to Geshe Sharawa, who tells us that when we practice equalizing and exchanging self with others and Tonglen practice, our practices should be based upon our sense of determination that we are going to do it continuously, And the example he has given is like when we build a big house, there's a beam of the house. The beam is very long, isn't it? And so like that, like the long length of the beam, continuity, metaphorically speaking, we should have consistency and continuity of our practice based upon, determination. And of course, we should be very, completely, wholeheartedly believe in our practice. There should not be any kind of doubts like, what if, it doesn't work? Or maybe, if we have some sort of doubts and uncertainty feelings, then our practice is not going to be effective. This is almost like we want to do or die kind of a practice with that kind of determination. Whatever happens, happen. I'm just going to do it and let it be, whatever the results it's going to read. So the examples he gives is just like, we have no doubts about blood being red. That's very definitive, isn't it? What is the color of blood? Red. Nobody says like, maybe pink or yellow. Nobody says that. It's red. What's the color of yogurt? It's white. It's very definitive, very certain, Like that, our practice should be very definitive, like the colors of blood and yogurt, that this is what it is, There is no what, if, but, kind of thing. It is, complete, definitive practice that we should engage in. And if we do that, we will be more successful. If we enter into the practice half-heartedly, then it is going to be half-hearted outcome. If we engage in with full determination, then it will produce a greater outcome. No.
Dhargye nyamse gon semken de jinde menga di gon semke chagres jinde menga di gon semken and dhargye nyamse gon semke chagmor se kesa tik shi wa sa ro se tada di sheda de zida de jinde menga de khade do se na sa ma shi zu jinde di me ta wo som ro ma shi de de yong sham ba som bo de ro o ti so bu the de da di ge res ta de Tonglen gon se adel ning je de la so ni that the Judemenga is the Ningshalazum Yorwa. So the Ningshalazum said, that they something to share model. Something say, I was so Lazum for a lay with the Lazum Sajin, Joe Maris. The Tonglen should come at dinner, and something that Lazum got in the city, or yes. So this is that. The such as the Sajin Alia, they Tonglen to share models, the Lazum that they.
No. At the bottom of page 77, what you find stated here is, remember that we talk about two, meditational techniques or mind training system through which and by which we can, cultivate altruism or bodhicitta. So one in Tibetan is called Dakshen Nyamche, equalizing and exchanging self for others. And the other one is called Gyunde Mengadun, 6 causes and 1 result meditation technique for bodhicitta. Yeah? And they are very interconnected, related. But if we follow the mind training of equalizing and exchanging self for others, this would include the 7 6 causes and 1 result key points in it. Yeah? But on the other hand, if we follow the 6 causes and 1 result instruction, that may not include equalizing and exchanging self for others notions here. Yeah? So that's the kind of difference between the two. So in other words, equalizing and exchanging self for others technique, Dakshen Nyamche, is all-inclusive mind training practice, whereas the 6 causes and 1 result instructions, that's not all-inclusive. It doesn't include certain things talked about in equalizing and exchanging self for others. So now how is that the 6 causes and 1 result points are included in the equalizing and exchanging self for others, if that's the question? So as Geshe explained, that with regard to equalizing self with others, the 3 points are, remembering the kind, thinking of all sentient beings as having been once mothers, okay, loving mothers or fathers or whatever, right? Now we have to be very flexible here, I suppose, footnote. And remembering their kindness and thinking of repaying their kindness, right? These things go along with equalizing self with others, okay? And then, the Tonglen practice that goes with this mind training includes love and compassion. Out of love, we give. Out of compassion, we take the suffering cause of ourselves. And so those are also part of the 6 causes and 1 result instruction. Now, the one thing that not specifically mentioned is the laksam, special willpower, right, which is defined as that I want to take upon myself, my footnote, responsibility to do this for everybody else. So that is an outcome of cultivating great love and great compassion. So therefore, it is not talked about separately in the context of equalizing and exchanging self for others. And so that's how, this technique of equalizing and exchanging self for others is a very effective and all-inclusive mind training practice for developing bodhicitta or awakening mind. Nice. So now we are on top of page 78. The big caption reads, the process of cultivating the awakening mind concerned with attaining the fully awakened state of being. As Geshe explained, technically, bodhicitta or Changjuji Sem, awakening mind, is defined as a primary state of mind accompanied by two types of aspiration, Dimba-nyiden, aspiration seeking enlightenment and aspiration seeking the well-being of others. Okay, that's how the bodhicitta is technically defined as. Okay, it is a primary state of mind which is accompanied by two types of aspiration. So what we have talked about so far is one of the aspirations mostly, which is aspiration seeking the well-being of others, right? So in this, what we have really talked about mostly is the need to cultivate a great love, wishing everybody to be happy and find the cause of happiness, and great compassion, wishing everybody to be free of suffering and its causes. And so these are what we call other-oriented attitudes, really seeking the well-being of other sentient beings, because we want them to be happy, we want them to be free of suffering. So this goes very well with aspiration seeking the well-being of others. So when we really cultivate this attitude so well inside us, of course, as a result of cultivating great love and great compassion, Maha-Maitri and Maha-Karuna, we also feel the sense of personal responsibility, special willpower. Okay, not only that, I wish everybody to be free of suffering and its causes, and wish everybody to be happy and its causes, but I feel the responsibility to do anything I can to make that happen, right? And so feel the responsibility on your shoulders, which is called laksam, special willpower. We don't expect somebody else to do that. We said, I want to do that, I have to do that. Okay, so that is automatic outcome of cultivating strong, great love and strong, great compassion. Yeah. So when we have that responsibility, yes, I really want to do this for sentient beings, want to give them all the happiness in the universe and the causes of happiness, and want to end all the suffering they don't want and the causes of suffering. But then when we realistically check with our own situation, we are in the same boat, right? When you are in the same boat, how can you help anybody else? Because we need the help. So now we clearly see the need for us to find our own enlightenment as a means to fulfill the end. This is how the aspiration seeking one's own enlightenment or arises in us. Okay? And so this is how bodhicitta now need to really work to find our own enlightenment first, so that we can really fulfill our promise, for sentient beings. So as we cultivate great love, great compassion, sentient beings, and feel the personal responsibility to make them happen, we realize that we don't have those situations. We cannot sit idly. We must do something, right? And seek our own enlightenment to fulfill the goal. The example Geshe is given is here. Therefore, somehow we promise someone to help. Now person's asking for help, and then we realize we don't have the ability to help. So now we have to do something to gain the ability to help, because we promised, right? Or we have to find some other person who can help the person, We just cannot not do anything because we already promised to help. So in the same way, as we cultivate great love, great compassion for sentient beings, to make that happen, then we really feel the strong need to strive for our own enlightenment as a means to the end. So this is how the bodhicitta is cultivated and arises in our mind.
And the Dhargye subject to the Thubten ni tachi ne se saji go ba to show nyam du jong se o de da sha da subject thong xia de be khe la da so be je le khe le de be ya bu shu ji lang sa ro da lo de da be sai na ci de o na da de ke ja ya ru no de xia de da se de ka je de ere yera da so de ju give to the that Yama Chica Southern Shiftas Jabba. Tata the Yero does about the Koaba Tarawa. But Tizoli had not told him she had the Yorita, Tabu Koma to go to Mother, he said, the Sashi go to Marawa. And Tagana shows Papa Sachi mentioned the Hito Jasha, but she was here to sign the just about she was the Shena Pigatis Casa, Koachi Sidus. You measure, then you call Madame but say there were no. What did it? That shows about the Link she wrote to Lunguna in the shop with the Marwa. What is what? The later you shiva go in God shooting someone was not yet the real ten seems yet how about pay young. What in there that tissue about this song mother Beza in the Shene that seems yet told the Tambo Suzu Shia Kela, the Alcoya Kela. Once as so that the Kale and the Duyag Shagin Mavshe, and the Shagin of Zen, you don't do that, and Sajiva magicians and marriage. That's all yours, and that's Sanjin and Sajik be Karsa. Nanga Shizibadi, maybe little Henoshito is that is top good. So Hene, that got the someone to take on and to talk to Locarwa.
No, sir.
But the Tamaki, Damo seems to the Chiashe. Senior don't shall so Kela, Mikaida, 지금은 뭐지 가르치는 야슬라고로 야슬라스 소소민다 다시적으로 다시적이야 다사주고 도주고.
So we are on top of page 78, and as Geshe explained, that once we cultivate strong love, strong compassion, as a result, we will feel the special responsibility to take upon ourselves, to do everything we can to make those things happen. Make those things happen mean that we help sentient beings find, happiness at its causes, and help sentient beings end suffering at its causes. So make that things really happen. So when we really examine our own abilities and situations right now, honestly, we realize that we are pretty much like them. We are in the same boat. So we are really not in a position to fulfill this wish and the pledge and the promise we make for sentient beings. And now because we made a promise, we cannot sit idly. So we said, we must do everything to fulfill our promise. So who are there who is able to do this kind of thing? So when we do this kind of thinking or meditation, if you will, we know that there are, arahats or the arahants, those who have achieved nirvana or freedom from samsara just for themselves by following the paths of hearers and solitary realizers. They're amazing, great, and they're able to do so much to benefit sentient beings, but still their abilities are limited. They couldn't do just like help sentient beings just like an enlightened being. Why? Because these arahats still have obscuration to omniscience. They are not Buddhas yet, And so therefore, their capacities compared to us are immense, but they are still limited. And then we look at bodhisattvas, who do nothing but, everything for sentient beings. And bodhisattvas on 10 spiritual grounds, from the first ground to the 10th ground called Dashabhumi, And bodhisattvas on higher levels have more abilities to do more things for sentient beings. Even when we think of the bodhisattvas on the 10th ground, the last stage, they're almost like a Buddha. Amazing qualities and abilities to benefit sentient beings. But again, they are still not yet Buddhas and couldn't do exactly and everything like an enlightened being. So the only person who can really do just the way we wish we could do for sentient beings is a fully enlightened being or fully awakened being called Buddha. And so therefore, now we really see the need for us to strive for our own enlightenment. Once we become Buddha, we can do it exactly like we promised sentient beings. We can fulfill that. Because there's all other holy beings we mentioned, they cannot do like Buddhas because, many of them, like the bodhisattvas, they are reborn and then they die, right? There are periods where they can't do much for sentient beings. But Buddhas are not like that. Buddhas never die. Sambhoga Kaya form or complete resource enjoyment body exists forever and doing sentient beings benefiting all the time. There is no any gap period here. So we really want to be like that. To be able to benefit sentient beings continuously. So this is how now we develop the aspiration seeking our own enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. This is how the bodhicitta arises in us. The primary mind, seeking our own enlightenment to fulfill the well-being of all sentient beings. So this is how, as Geshe is still chuckling over this, once we have already promised sentient beings to help, we have to do anything we can to fulfill the promise. It's just like, some people, whether they're consciously or unconsciously or mindfully, unmindfully, they promise to do something for others. The other people will knock their door like, remember you promised me to do something? And then you realize you don't have that ability. Now you have to do something, to fulfill the promise. So it's the same thing. Once we have cultivated great love, great compassion for sentient beings, we promise to help sentient beings find happiness in its causes and suffering its causes. Now sentient beings could knock our door. So we have to, we have to strive our enlightenment to fulfill the promise. So we would love to stop there today, which is a very right place to stop today. Page 78, and we welcome your questions and anything. No. No. No, sir. So we have a couple of questions here. We will try to go through them. The question number 1, could Geshe-la elaborate on the quote from the expression, the names of Manjushri? What does that mean? The result of one vehicle is present in the 3 vehicles' determination to be free. Okay, very good. I can very well ask Geshe-la that. Can Tiwa Thangbo Didi Shugu the Wagen? Tiwa Thangbo the Rawa? Tagi Kaso or Jambe Chenju and Nerwage. Tabasumgi Karachi, Tabachi Dibune Sejawage. The Tonda Wama the Karasigo, Saki, the Deshes Jaronas, Tabasumgi Casa de la Tabachi Nelite.
That Jidong usual Sabbath, Tabaton, the Sabbath, the Tamu usual Sabbath God, some Kachiwara.
No,
Ninja Ranja teaches some Yorwa.
no, sir.
Or the usual Sabbath of Chiwas, they usually the Jen, and so, yeah, Langada do the Zala. Ali, Neka to the car door, yes.
No, sir.
You know, Tatu of Dilla, in San Diego, Macora,
no, sir. Lotus, Ale di I'll take something in Jules said, loss again.
Some usually
Loss. Okay, Geshe-la explains that the 2 line quotes from chanting the names of Manjushri Namasamgiti, where it reads, the result of 1 vehicle is present in the 3 vehicles' determination to be free. Determination to be free is the translation of the Tibetan term called Ngejung. Aversion to suffering, and so in the beginning, we may find 3 different practitioners with 3 different types of aversion to suffering. Those who are seeking, freedom from suffering just for themselves. So they develop that kind of renunciation or ngenjung, determination to be free just for their own sake. This is how Sharvakas and Pratyeka Buddhas are, hearers and solitary realizers are. And then there are those who want to be free in the sense for all sentient beings. That's how the Bodhisattvas cultivate renunciation. So temporarily looks like there are 3 types of renunciations, and for the time being they are walking on different paths, but eventually, finally, they will meet together because everybody will seek complete enlightenment, will end up in the same spot, so to speak. So therefore, the quotation that the result of 1 vehicle is present in 3 determinations. That's what it means. Enlightenment is the final one result outcome, that arises as if out of 3 types of renunciation. Okay, so that is the meaning. The next one question is Trashi Delag. My question is, does mind affect the breath, or the breath affect the mind, or is interchangeable? Which one has more power over the other? Is it safe to practice breathing meditation on your own? Thank you. Tiwan di shu do again tanda tagi di ke kasa tinyi lung la kyom cha sai che ro again. Tinyi lung la kyom cha sai che wa. Tinyi lung la kyom cha lung jung wa sai che ro again. Cha za di tanda lung kasa jung wa la ya sam la tang ja Tonglen chang de ka ro again. Ane Tonglen ge sam lo de gi lung pa zo ngo bya de ya and shugen take your lung movia should dig rawake, Tonglen Changel Pa shugen take the shugen rawake, Tena rawake. So then the negi lung move chair, the social chigog chen yamne chavene, and Yangarawake Yomarawasa can do.
Did you have this or that? So give the Lulu the Gazas of Patra, Shenda, it seems that the doing the Judu soon end some child of the Shire.
Lade.
That is that part of the sea layer that was Jilum of Chigumare. But did that in the Okta long journey, the part of the part on a share. Two of the Shada doing to the Ashena, Jilum to Shena, and it Chita for long make the so because now you know that the make what they will share this. Instead of side you don't have to buy many because get that dot help a pebble do she did do more. Some of the time they were more. Some of the time they said in all long she passing some of those.
다까지 슈겐데긴데 우중을 제디 왕기 단데 셈종 제들 파스다 초치고 어와게
나
단데 우중을 제디 셈종 제들 파 초치는 슈겐데게 어와 마더지기 셈종 어디 우를 마켓 슈겐데게 요마로
다 도세 유놈 좀
줄람데다 그러와 노서게. So Geshe-la's explanation is this that it is safe to do the breathing what we call imagination or exercise, sometimes people say, because you are doing nothing but simply focusing on your natural process of exhaling and inhaling the breath, right? Breathing in and breathing out. So it is safe to do that on your own. And by doing this kind of a Tonglen practice, the practice of giving and taking along with this natural cycle of breathing, because when we focus our mind on this cycle of breath, it really helps us to stabilize our mind, and this kind of breathing augments our mind training or the Tonglen practice. And the Tonglen practice is not going to affect the breathing system, because we are not doing anything to change the breathing system. We are just simply naturally breathing in and breathing out as we do. We are not doing some special breathing here, right? It's just natural breath we are doing, okay? So let me see if there's another one question there or not. I have two there. Now, sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you tighten the focus? That is a very, so please try to maybe, ask what your question next time, because I don't know what it means, tighten the focus, right? What is the referred to here? I have a question from 2 weeks ago, which I'm going to ask Geshe now, and hope the person who asked the question is still there. If not, it will benefit all of us. 2 weeks ago, I remember there was a question being asked, and I understood what was written, but I didn't understand the question, But I asked the Geshe, of course, our answer probably did not serve much purpose because I didn't understand what the question was. But through the help of a very dear spiritual friend, so now I think I understood the question, and hope this is the question. If not, but this is a really good question. Anyway, I put it on my note. So the question is, remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the great benefits of cultivating compassion and all of those things, and here, so somebody asked, thinking about the benefits of compassion cultivation may attract selfish people into Dharma. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of Mahayana discourse? Now that started to make sense to me, So I'll ask Geshe now. Tundani singel kazangma tiwa standi tiwa di sebo madido gocho masongage tiwa. Tundani singel tiwa stang songage. Ningji keso na kalso gore ane chugi kalso gore. Di tiwa kujime stang songage. Surely tiwa de cheche chein ba. Tiwa de dilabe keche de wa. Ta kazo ngazo ningji ki penyo mangbo sambar wa ke. Ningji sembo kongore penyo mangbo samde kanla. And the penyo mangbo samde kanla ya soso rang jinjin yoro wa ke. What did ngal keben shibush to ding atiana mas diksa mansa ro wa ke. Ko rang jinjin shukche dang ma ra sta. Mi mangbo rang jinjin yu ke mi mangbo shibuch chue na lo zuyong. Rang jinjin yu ke chue chenge yin na digi takwa chenbyo ke chue ke ro wa ke. Ta tonda de ane kalso ta torshi de ma ra. Takwa chenbyo ni sende sho ro wa ke. Ta ngal kugudu ta de ningje de ngal me ni yongsa ma ta yongsa de dinde yo ma ro. Yong de na ane takwa chenbyo ke mi gyu di ane pa me ba cha do ma ro sa.
Ta ningje de kasa chao ningje go ne de roje di share sha de besa wa.
Na. Ningje ke penyo sam de wa ke ta ngal kugudu de ngal de yang shibu to ma.
그래서나 그 닝세데 코랑 연대체 맞으면 그 금년 되고 말아.
No, sir.
진짜 그 금년 그 리브디데 지게 소설 배도 되게 멜 배도 되게 요리스. 근데 그 배운 돈은 신의 그 내가 창야지 저거 어디 있어.
No.
가지고 있는 건데 식시는 게 배운 식인데 식으로.
나래.
돈이 더 별로 배용. 정주세 배용. 인주는 인주 배용 식으로.
나래.
그래서 그 연대 간도 배도 총자게 정서 총자 서자 총에서 서자 총에 계산 자기를 로봇 하고는 거서라도 도
Larwa. Hindraman the caption the Nala Yungudu, Tangala Kugudu, subject of church, and it was in Belgi, Yamland, Changu Sorgan.
that the period tell that Rangachidi or Dead, you know. That is also share. Not Chindi to the Dhamma, the Chinzi Konyam to go to duty you.
I'll use Yamni chair, but I don't know again. Oh, okay, so Geshe and the explanations is that you know, for any kind of practice, for us to get interested into that practice, right? It is of utmost importance for us to talk about and contemplate the benefits of such a practice. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked a lot about the benefits of cultivating great compassion or mahakaruna. Okay, so as we see the benefits for ourselves, you know, of course, as a practitioner at our level, it might get mixed with our self-cherishing attitude. Okay, I want those benefits, right? But at the moment, this is all how can we practice it. But in reality, the great compassion is other-oriented attitude. Because great compassion means wishing others to be free of suffering, not just you, right? That's great compassion. And so therefore, Geshe feels that, yeah, in the beginning, you know, self-cherishing or selfishness might mess up or it kind of creeps into our practice, but slowly we can weed them out, you know, and we will be able to focus on, cultivating the great compassion. So it does not defeat the purpose of Mahayana discourse. And another response the other Geshe shared here is like His Holiness would say that, you know, if we bring too much self-centeredness into great compassion practice, that means we don't know how to cultivate great compassion, you know, because if we cultivate great compassion properly, there's nothing but it will give rise to bodhicitta, and then we become bodhisattvas. Now, we hope, you know, these responses really are helpful to you and kind of answers your question. Okay?